Hey everybody, it is Gabrielle Bosché here and welcome to the webinar. Now I've got a couple of things I still need to get going. I'm making sure people are coming in. I'm getting tons of emails of people saying, hey, is it on? Is this happening? So I want to make sure, first of all, that you guys can hear me. So Kitty, I know you were just asking if you could hear anything. So someone, Kitty, Teresa, Susan, hey, thanks for joining us. Let me know in the chat bar if you guys can hear me. Say thumbs up. Yes, you can hear. And awesome. Thank you, Susan. And make sure that you can see me as well. So make sure that yes, you can hear me and yes, you can see me. Now I'm making sure that I'm getting everybody on. Awesome. All right, Karen does not hear anything. Karen, can you make sure that, oh, well, she can't hear me, so that doesn't really help you very much. All right, let's make sure everybody's got your audio up, because I know sometimes we don't turn up our audio, and then when we jump onto one of these webinars, things get a little crazy. So, all right, awesome. Let me know, where are you guys watching from? So let me know what city you're in. I'd love to see who we've got on the call, see how many continents maybe we can include. And I am making sure everybody can hear me. I'm inviting my Facebook audience. If you guys are not friends with me on Facebook, you absolutely should. I post things every single day, different tidbits, pieces of advice, information about how you can reach and retain the millennial generation. And I am very excited about what we've got going on today. Today has been, I think, Wyoming, Milwaukee, Huntington Beach. Hey, Megan, good to see that you are on. I'm sure that the weather is much better there. We are still in a bit of a rainy season here in the Washington, D.C. area. And so we're working on getting a little bit further into spring, which is a really good time of year for all of us. So, so it looks like Karen and it looks like Leslie are still having some issues with audio. It sounds like everybody else is having an okay time. So maybe some people can jump in and help maybe Karen and Leslie figure out what's going on with their audio session. And I want to make sure to jump in. We've got a good amount of people who've already joined us. So welcome again to this webinar. Today we are going to be talking about onboarding. What is it? Why is it important? And more than anything else, how you can develop an onboarding program that makes sense for the next generation. Now, most organizations have an onboarding program of some sort, right? So you join a company, you get the offer letter after that long, grueling interview process, and you join the company, and they're like, hey, welcome. So glad that you're here. Here is an employee handbook, right? So it's a giant handbook that they put in front of you. And then maybe you sit in a classroom with other people who also got hired, and you learn about the company culture. You learn about the do's and don'ts. You learn where the bathroom is. And that's pretty much it. Then you spend the rest of your time focusing on, waiting for other people to give you directions. A lot of what you're doing is reacting. And I want to talk to you specifically about how you can develop an onboarding program that not only makes sense for my generation, for millennials, but it's going to make more sense for all of your employees, all of your team. So that's what we are going to be discussing today. So if you have any questions, save them to the end. This is about a 45-minute presentation, and then we're going to have times for Q&A at the end. So if you have a specific question, make sure that you keep it. And it's first come, first serve when it comes to questions. So make sure that you go ahead and log that in so that you can be joining us. And I want you guys to stay to the end, because I have a free offer. It's worth about $800. And I just decided before we jumped on, I said, you know what, typically I charge anywhere between $800 and $1,000 to do this free assessment. But because you guys are joining me here on this free live webinar, I want to make sure that you get access to it as well. And I think you're going to be fairly overwhelmed with what it is that I'm offering, but you have to stay to the end. So let's jump into it. I see everyone's calling in from Portland, Maine, and in Georgia, Tennessee, South Africa. Peter definitely wins on the furthest, at least that we have so far, people who are jumping in on this call. So let's get started. So when I'm talking about onboarding is, there's a distinction between onboarding and orientation. What do I mean? So onboarding is that process of an employee joining an organization. They're learning about the culture, they're learning what to do, they're learning what not to do. Orientation is much more general. It's going to be everything from the company as a whole to your role as well. And it's important to know the distinction between an onboarding program and an orientation program. Now, onboarding is going to be more focused on the role itself. So I'm not going to get too deep into how you should onboard for a particular role, because that's going to be completely dependent upon what you need to do for your particular employees. But more than anything, what I want you guys to walk away with, if you learn nothing else, is to learn that you need to develop an onboarding program that is engaging and inspiring for your next generation staff. Gone are the days where people are going to come in, they're going to sit around, they're going to listen to you, and then they're going to just join your company. We're actually seeing a really large turnover of millennials within the first 6 weeks of working. What we found, I work with an organization out of Australia, and what they found is that about 6 weeks after a millennial employee is going to join your organization, they determine how long they're going to stay at your company. Within 6 weeks. So you hire someone that looks like me, and 6 weeks later, I'm determining if I'm going to be with your company for 2 years or 5 years, or maybe even 10 years, maybe even 11 months. It completely depends on what that experience is like. I want to share with you today, amongst many of the best practices that we've developed for companies working specifically with organizations to help them attract and retain great talent. I want to help you see what some of the best practices are that you can begin to implement immediately. Now, if you follow us, if you've seen me speak, if you're a part of the Millennial Solution community, you know how addicted to very practical strategies that we are. For those of you who are not familiar with us, we develop engagement strategies of every level for organizations. We work with leaders like yourself directly to help you understand and optimize who the next generation is and fitting whatever your needs are. So whether you're having a hard time writing job descriptions that millennials are excited about, if you need help developing a mentoring program, we do onboarding development as well, which is really the basis of what I am going to be sharing with you today. The actual strategies that we have done for and with top companies. So if you guys are ready. So I want to jump into what makes a great onboarding program. But before we do, I want to share what makes a terrible onboarding program. Now, onboarding has been one of those things that everybody does. Some people do it better than others, but it's kind of a box that is checked. Typically, onboarding is you joining an organization and you're learning about the benefits, you're learning about the do's and don'ts, you're learning about, all the details, right? But what I want to talk to you about is how do you fully optimize that process? So rather than it just being a box that's checked, why not at the end of your onboarding program have an employee who fully understands how the organization works from top to bottom, how they understand everything about the value proposition that they personally have and what the corporate mission statement is. But more importantly, the end goal of any onboarding program has got to be connecting the personal mission statement of your new employee to the corporate mission statement of your organization. Now, we all have a mission statement, right? I mean, all of our companies do. Typically, they're put on a website somewhere, and you may or may not ever read it again, right? But why not use that mission statement to instill loyalty, to instill passion and excitement to the next generation? And that is what this is all about. So what does not make a great onboarding program? Let's talk about it. So typically an onboarding program is very sterile. You don't want something that is cut and paste for every new employee. You want to have something that's customized. So onboarding programs that don't do well are one-day programs or programs that are even less than a day. You have an opportunity to fully integrate your new employee into your team, and you're spending hours with them before you're getting them to commit to your company. It makes zero sense. So great onboarding programs are multiple days. Terrible onboarding programs or less than a day. So if you have a one-day program, think about how you can develop it more. Great onboarding programs are much more incorporated into the company culture versus, again, just a handbook that people are going to be following. So I want to share with you guys 5 principles of what a great onboarding program has. Every great onboarding program has this. We develop these programs, we've seen them, we've analyzed them, we've studied them extensively, and I'm very excited to be sharing with you exactly what we have found. So first and foremost, an onboarding program has pre-boarding. Now, everyone knows what pre-boarding is when it comes to flying Delta, but what does it mean to pre-board when you have a new employee? Now, many millennials, what we're finding is that they're starting to shop offers around. They may say, yes, I'd love to come and work at your organization, but as soon as they get that offer letter, they're shopping those offers to other organizations. They're wanting to know benefits. They're wanting to know what kind of access to leadership they have. They want to know what their growth and trajectory is, which isn't a bad thing. You want an employee who's done the homework and knows that you are the best out there. As you know, the economy is ever increasingly competitive, and that means that you're going to be having to compete with people in your own industry to be able to get that great talent. So use that pre-boarding to really solidify why that young person is wanting to work for you. So what does that look like? So pre-boarding could be everything from as soon as you send the offer letter, you start to send either text or an email or a short video of you to their email saying, hey, so excited that you have joined this organization. We are so stoked to have you join in the next 2 weeks. I want to let you know I'm fully here if you have any questions, if you have anything that I can help you understand, but I just want to let you know personally how excited that we are. Make it as personal as possible. That pre-boarding, as soon as you sign that offer letter, you're starting to incorporate them into your company. Send an email out to your entire team and let them know who's new on the team, and maybe give some tidbits or some background information. So some great quality conversation pieces for that new person who's coming on. Remember, you're building a culture. You're not just bringing on someone to do a job. So make sure that you have that culture transfer and you're letting that new person know before they even show up on the first day. You should be including everything from what dress code is, maybe, where we're going for lunch, or, what you can expect on your first day, your schedule on your first day. So make sure that they're not just showing up to your office or onto the job site with no idea of what's going to be going on. I say this all the time, but millennials need to have more clarity than other generations. We're not a generation that does well with ambiguity of just things kind of happening as they may or us figuring out on our own. This generation has an expectation that we're going to have much more clarity in every step of the way. And that includes your first day on the job. All right, the second thing that every great onboarding program has is it's got to be multifaceted. What do I mean by that? If you have an onboarding program that's solely reliant on getting people in a room and talking to them, you're going to miss out on this next generation. Not everybody learns the same. Some of us are audio learners, some of us are more written, some of us are completely visual. And so for you to create an onboarding program that only fits one box will really underutilize everyone else who is going through your program. So you want to make sure that any program you do has multifacets. You've got to do everything from video. We're huge proponents of videos. We actually develop videos for many of our clients that go from who we are as a company to how you can get involved and how you can provide value. So doing a short video, and I'll talk more about what that video can look like in a moment, to send out to your new employees, even before they walk in the door, is a great way to not only pre-board, but to get them excited about your company in a multifaceted way. What you can also do is make sure that you've got things that are much more interactive. So if you're just handing someone a handbook, 35% of millennial employees have actually said they don't even know where their employee handbook is. I mean, do you? Would you have any idea, unless you wrote it, right? And this idea that we are so dependent on kind of this, this resource of an employee handbook, which can be very useful, but it should not be our go-to. It really should be more supplemental than anything else. It's okay to be doing classroom orientation or onboarding. That's completely fine, but make sure that you're not only relying on that. Many of the people who are sitting in your onboarding program probably didn't do very well in a classroom. Depending on what industry you're in, they may have gotten into that industry because they avoided going into a classroom. So consider how your new hires learn and develop an onboarding program around it. Again, it's not about you checking a box in HR. It's about you ingratiating and incorporating your new employees into your organization. All right, what is the third component of a great onboarding program? This is the most important part. So if you learn nothing else, pay attention to this right now. And that is having a clear set of expectations that are set for your new employee. It sounds simple, this idea of setting expectations, but it is so crucial to make sure that you have a clarity of what your relationship is going to look like with each generation who comes in to work for you. The millennials want to have, again, clarity more than any other generation. They want to know what you expect out of them, and you better believe that they have expectations for you as well. Your onboarding program is the perfect opportunity to have expectations set. This generation is often considered entitled or unmotivated or disconnected or even disloyal. And there is some truth to that. But what we have found, what I've personally found researching millennials for over 11 years, is that millennials want to have a connection to a company. And their expectations may be out of sync with what your company is able to offer. And that's not bad. Having the expectation of a new person coming in that they're going to get, a raise or a promotion every 6 months isn't necessarily bad. Those expectations have been set outside of your control. But just because that young person has high expectations does not mean that they shouldn't be optimized and utilized at your company. That does not disqualify them just because they have high or unmanaged expectations. It is your responsibility to reset those expectations and make sure that they are in line with your organization. So what does that mean? Part of your onboarding program must be a clarity and a clarifying of what expectations help people, move up and move through the company, what raise and promotion scales look like, maybe giving some examples of people who've been able to grow through the company in the past. Those are the types of expectation setters great onboarding programs have. I'll even have, when we do onboarding programs, I'll have the new hire write expectations for us as a company. So what are your 3 expectations that you have? What are the 3 things you want to get out of your experience at this company? And guess what? We'll do the same thing for you. Here are our 3 expectations about who you are and what you will contribute. See how well those expectations match. Do they match on growth? Do they match on salary? Do they match on impact? Those are really the core components of what your onboarding program must include. Setting expectations is key. If you set expectations at the beginning, that gives you a grounds to come back and revisit those expectations every 6 to 10 weeks, which is when you should be going back and having those core conversations about what that person's role is. I'm not talking about feedback, right? Because most people think, oh, feedback, we reserve that to the end of the year. That's when we do our 360s. But if you are waiting for the end of the year to give a millennial feedback to, you may not have a millennial who you are hiring or who you're employing at the time. This generation will move on if they're not getting the feedback that they need. But feedback looks much more like a conversation than necessarily you coming in and having a meeting. I'm not talking about feedback when I'm talking about reassessing and revisiting expectations. That's much more of a macro conversation. Feedback has got to be much more micro as you're going through your day. It's much more of a conversation than a meeting per se. So make sure that those expectations are clear. And those expectations can and will change. But your onboarding program is your ultimate opportunity to make sure that at least at the beginning, you have a clear set of expectations. That way, in 6 months, when they put in their 2 weeks notice because they're not moving up through the ranks as fast as they would have liked, you're not surprised, because their expectation was that, and that they clearly communicated, was that they would have more opportunity, and that opportunity just wasn't met. So clarity and expectations, I cannot underline it, star it, highlight it enough, that your onboarding programs, if it does nothing else, must set expectations. All right, number 4, what's the 4th thing every great onboarding program has? It has an empowering component. What does that mean? You need to have an onboarding program that isn't you giving the employee information or you telling the employee what to do. One of the biggest crimes that I think any onboarding program does as of late is it essentially puts the employee either at a desk or a cubicle, or, waiting for a manager to come alongside and give them directions. That sets muscle memory for your new employees, that other people come and dictate your direction, and it does not teach taking initiative. So setting a realm around that new employee, that they need to take the initiative, they need to go out there and they need to meet new people on the team. That's going to really empower not only the new employee, but current staff to get to know the new employees better as well. So it's going to boost morale, it's going to really help on the culture component, and it's going to teach your new employee that in this company, we value, we celebrate, and we even incentivize people who take the initiative. So give examples of what that looks like. Now, that doesn't mean on the first day you're saying, okay, great, talk to 10 people. For some very extroverted new hires, that may be a challenge that they are very excited about taking on. For some introverts, that could be, like purgatory or some sort of punishment that they're having to go outside of their realm of comfort. So make sure that you're understanding how your new hires best respond to these types of challenges. But even for the most introverted person, providing them a clear step-by-step guide for how they can start taking initiative, meeting new people, asking questions is going to be very, very key. And at the end of this, I'm going to share a very specific way that we've been able to do that with companies that you can implement by tomorrow. It's a very fast, a very easy, and a very fun component of what onboarding can and should look like. All right, the 5th and final component of every great onboarding program, it's fun. It's got to be fun. Too many onboarding programs are very stiff and they're very clinical, and they don't do a good job of inspiring creativity and excitement in the new hire. You just brought someone onto your team. It's like the honeymoon phase. I mean, you should be excited. They should be excited. They've just started a new chapter in their life. They've got new friends. They have a new income opportunity. They have a new personal challenge that they're going to be able to meet each and every day at your organization. It's something to celebrate, and it's something to really embrace fully, rather than seeing something again as something that you're just checking off a box. So make sure that any onboarding program that you do, it's got a fun component. It's got to be creative. It's got to be something that's memorable. Now, people learn in so many different ways. And so the more that you're able to incorporate different types of learning, potentially, and I think most importantly, all at the same time, you're really going to help solidify in that person's mind, no matter their age, who you are and what kind of culture that you develop. So fun things that you could do is everything from having, potluck lunch. If you have a smaller team, for every new person that you bring on, you could take them out to lunch if you want. You could find out what their favorite food is, or you could, make them their favorite cake, their favorite dessert. We love doing that. So think of just fun celebratory things. Find out what their theme song or their walkout song would be, and have it playing as soon as they get in the office. I mean, there's so many fun, so many unique things that you can do that make the onboarding program memorable and unique, and make the new employee feel like, wow, I made such a good decision joining this organization. I feel like I found something. Because no matter who you are or what age you are, you want to find your people. You want to find your group. You want to know that where you work really celebrates you and is excited that you're a part of it. So make sure that fun is a part of your culture in general, but more importantly, your onboarding as well. Now, when I talk to groups, which I have the opportunity to speak in front of groups a few times a week about this, I usually get kind of a roll of the eyes like, okay, Gabrielle, that's fine. Because, for them, it's fun is not supposed to be at work. There's work and then there's fun. And, it's called work because it's supposed to be work. And if it's supposed to be fun, it'd be called fun, right? And that may be the mindset that you or some of your other colleagues have. But the truth is that the more fun that you have at work, no matter how old you are, the more fulfillment that you'll have, the more engaged that you'll be, the more committed you will be as well. It's hard to quit a job that you're having fun at, that you're enjoying, that you love your colleagues. And so if you can set that tone from the beginning, even if your current kind of administration, people in leadership may not embrace that fun part of the culture, the more people you have who come through your onboarding program, you can help change the culture from the bottom up. And that is what I think is so powerful and is so exciting, is this idea of being able to really bring in a new generation of talent that is fully committed, they're fully engaged, and they're excited. When you start to celebrate things like individuals and new hires and creativity and new ideas, you're really able to set the tone for the future growth of your company. So now I want to share with you some very specific next steps that you can incorporate into your company. And then remember, at the end, I'm going to give you access to something, but you have to stay to the end to be able to get it, because I'm going to send it as a link in the comment section, so don't leave. So I want to talk about 3 very specific solutions that you can start to incorporate right away. The first, and it could actually be my favorite, is a scavenger hunt. So remember when I was talking about taking the initiative. So we have designed scavenger hunts for companies where you are brand new to the organization, and then you're essentially giving step-by-step of, here, go talk to these 3 people to find out what they've done in the past. Here are 2 places that you should go and visit. Here's a website that you should find out about the history of our organization. Here's, a couple of newspaper ads, newspaper articles, or maybe a video that we've put together. So making it a fun component is really, really cool. And the scavenger hunt part of it is a great way to teach your new employees how to take initiative, how to get out of their comfort zone, how to meet other people, and how to build relationships immediately with the brand new culture that they have just joined. All right, the second thing that you can do are videos. I started to share with you briefly about what I mean by videos. So we design these all the time. They're short 5-minute videos. We'll do these 5-minute videos. Typically, we'll either shoot them for a client right on site, or we'll have it designed kind of like a cartoon or a whiteboard video. And it is an incredible opportunity for you to be able to tap into the more creative side of your new employee and be able to really paint a really fun and a very memorable picture of who you are. So these videos, we typically do 4 to 5 that are 5 minutes each. And these are the story of your organization. They cover the culture. They cover how you guys got started. They cover your why. They cover the value that you expect your new employees to bring. And they cover what kind of growth opportunities are there as well. Again, remember those expectations. Think through how you can deliver those expectations, not on a piece of paper, but how you can show them rather than tell them. The more that you can do that in the onboarding process, show them that you value your new employees rather than tell them, yeah, we really value employees. People will remember what you do more than they will remember what you say. And the third component of a great onboarding program that I absolutely adore is this idea of giving a new employee the ability to change 1 or 2 things in the first 3 weeks of the job. Now, I've experienced it as a new employee when I was working for other people. There are numerous CEOs who we've worked with that have this very progressive mindset that new employees have a fresh perspective that everyone can benefit from. Listen to me on this one. So it's an idea where you have new employees and you give them maybe 3 to 6 weeks for them to do some research, do some digging, and say, hey, at the end of this 6 weeks, I want you to come to me and I want you to tell me 1 or 2 things that you think that we can improve. And it's an incredible way for you to instill in that new employee again, that initiative, again, that creativity and that problem solving, and again, setting that expectation that, hey, in this company, we expect every person to think about how something can get improved. It's not just us at the top who determine how to save money, how to do things better, but it really is a role and a responsibility of every single person. Maybe you're an intern. I don't care. At the end of 6 weeks, I want you to come to me and I want you to say, hey, have you thought about doing this better? Or, hey, I found a way that we can save money. That is how you instill ownership in new employees nearly immediately. That's how you demonstrate that as a leader, you aren't afraid of people either giving you suggestions or making you think differently. Don't be threatened when someone, particularly someone who's young, comes to you with a new idea. Don't be threatened when they come to you and they say, why do you do it this way? Maybe there's a better way. That's how this next generation is hardwired. We ask questions, not because we want to disrespect you. We ask questions because we want to know. We want to be involved. We want to discover more. We want to learn about how the company works. This is something that we have found doing internal assessments for really large companies is, and I've got to be honest, surprisingly to many of us, was that these employees who were anywhere between 19 and 30 years old said, you know, I really want to know how the company makes money. You know, I want to know the business model. Can someone teach me? And in their managers were thinking, we had no idea. Why would you even want to know that? But this generation is addicted to education. They wanted to learn. They wanted to understand. They wanted to have context. And this is something I will tell people time and time again, is that millennials don't need other generations for information. We have Google for that. But what we need other generations for is interpretation and application. What do I mean by that? We need other generations for the interpretation of events, of facts, of information that's being thrown at us. So whether that's the onboarding program, hey, this is who we are, this is why we do what we do. All right, that's fine. I need an interpretation of why that information is important. Why are you telling me? Why as a new employee should I understand the story of how we started? And finally, the application side of it is, yes, we give you this information because we want you to feel like you're a part of the family, because guess what? You are. You're not just a new staffer. You're not new around here. We don't treat new employees any different than we treat employees who've been here for 30 years. You're a valued member of the team, and that means that you need to be celebrated and you need to be supported. So make sure that you're telling us what you need as well. So those are some really practical 3 strategies that I've used in developing onboarding programs that have done incredibly well, that are so much fun. It's one of my favorite things to do, is to develop onboarding programs. Because as someone who has studied millennials for 11 years, we started the Millennial Solution 4.5 years ago. We developed interview guides and assessments and retention strategies for top companies. But one of the things that we learned, and frankly, I've just got to be really honest with you, what really shocked me was how closely tied onboarding was to retention. Because you're, again, setting those expectations. When you onboard well, you retain well. It's as simple as that. Companies that have developed onboarding programs that are current and that are designed with the millennial in mind do so well when it comes to retaining this next generation, because they set expectations, they get them immediately involved, and they don't have a mindset of, you have to be here for a few years before you start to make a difference. They're designed to really quickly inspire and excite the new hire, and that's what it needs to be a part of. So I'm going to open it up for questions, but before I do, I remember that I told you that because you guys stayed to the end, we actually had more people show up at the end than at the beginning, which is great. I'm going to give you access to apply for a free onboarding assessment. So as I shared before, we do these anywhere between $800 to $1,000 per our clients. People come to us and say, hey, can you help me with my onboarding? But because you guys have been incredible, and because you're a part of this webinar and part of our community, I want to give you free access to a 20-minute assessment with myself, where I will jump on with you on the phone call. I will talk to you about your onboarding program. You can send me the materials that you have developed thus far, and I will help talk with you through how you can start to practically improve your onboarding program. So I'm going to, right now, I'm going to put in the chat bar, so make sure everybody can see in the chat bar right here, there is an application. So depending on time and depending on how many people apply, I've got a good idea that a lot of people are going to start applying for this, but I want to make sure that that you have that link. So right over there in the chat bar, there is a link to apply to have a 20-minute free assessment. During those 20 minutes, I'm going to, again, help you understand some more of the context around what the principles that I brought with you, because I know we only have, a few minutes left here on this webinar. I know you guys got to get back to work, and I'm very, very appreciative every time you guys jump on these webinars. We have them every 2 or 3 weeks, and because I truly believe that as leaders that you need to have very fresh information, new data, and new application when it comes to how do you engage with the next generation. So remember, I'm going to open it up for Q&A right now. So if you guys have a specific question, make sure to type in the chat bar and make sure that you ask something very specific that I can help answer for you when it comes to how do you develop an onboarding program. Maybe you have a question around, what that looks like, maybe specifically for your company. I'm not quite sure what that means for you, but what I do know is that I'm excited to see what some of your questions may be. Kathy asked if there's HRCI or SHRM credit for this webcast. There is not. As you know, I've done quite a bit with SHRM and HRCI in the past, but I do think that's a great point. I can reach out to them and see if we can do a version like this with HRCI, because I think that would be a really useful opportunity for them to be able to do that. So Kathy, great point. It's not HRCI certified. Yeah, no problem. So some of the questions I will get asked is, and I just had a conversation with this earlier today, is, what information or how important are benefits to millennials? And the data we found is actually quite surprising that millennials really do care about. We really do care about benefits. We are shopping benefits, particularly the health and wellness component of it. We want to know, what kind of benefits we have. Can we use some of that to go to a gym, or, if we bike to work, or, what kind of incentive is there for us to be healthy? And that's incredibly important for us. So when you're talking about benefits, your onboarding program should naturally incorporate those benefits in a way that is simple, that is clear, and isn't just you sharing information, but is much more of a conversation. So be clear about what those benefits are. We're big fans of the cafeteria type plans where you're able to empower your employees with the ability to pick and choose what type of a benefits program makes sense for them. And that's really great. I know sometimes you don't have a lot of power when it comes to that, but having clarity as well is really important. Millennials, particularly if it's their first or their second job, they're going to want a little bit more hand-holding when it comes to the things like benefits, like filling out a lot of those that paperwork. So be patient. Realize that many in this generation are fairly dependent on their parents. We see things like, like Take Your Parent to Work Day at like the Yahoos and the Googles of companies that have fully embraced the fact that this generation really does love inviting our parents into everything with us. So again, be patient, incorporate your onboarding/orientation with your benefits conversation in a way that makes sense. But, again, your onboarding process needs to be much more multifaceted, where you're moving people around rather than sitting them in an office all day long and hoping that they read the handbook. So if no one has any questions, make sure, again, if you have a question, ask me specifically in the chat bar. Go ahead and apply to get a 20-minute slot with us. We're still working on our schedule, but I'm very excited to see who's going to sign up for this 20-minute slot so I can personally help you talk through what your onboarding program looks like. So I'll make sure to send an email to everyone with a specific line for you to start to apply as well. If you want to make sure to get one of those 20-minute slots to be able to learn more about how your onboarding program can more effectively engage the millennial generation, because you are in a huge opportunity to be able to really start to bring on this new generation. As you know, millennials are now 50% of the workforce, and that means that we have a huge onslaught of a new generation that has very different expectations for the workforce as well. So Kathy asked if she can have her assistant. Yes, absolutely. Yep. Kathy, you can absolutely have your assistant join me on the onboarding component. So just have her fill out that application that I included. All right. We have another question. If you have a small company, less than 50 employees, where there's virtually no upwards mobility, how do you phrase that in a way that doesn't turn your new hires off instantly? Great point. Great point. It's not necessarily the trajectory or how high a millennial can go. It's how they can change their experience. So a millennial may not want to come and work for your company because there is, endless upwards trajectory. That's not necessarily the case. And that's not what we found surveying millennials. What millennials want more than anything is they want to have a better experience. Millennials don't want jobs and they don't want careers, they want experiences. So how are you developing an experience that empowers them, that focuses on their personal development as well as their professional development? So that's completely fine. I've found many millennials who will leave large companies and work for more boutique-sized firms because they want to have that component that's a family, that's a better culture. That's the experience that they want. So don't be discouraged from developing an onboarding program that helps millennials, that, you can even set those expectations of how you want to help them grow personally and professionally. But that doesn't necessarily mean that professional growth is tied to a promotion or a larger trajectory in the long term. I hope that answered your question. All right. Elise said a coworker wanted to get on this webinar but had connectivity issues. Yes, this webinar will be resent via email. So for everyone who signed up, you will be getting a link to this webinar. You will also be getting a link to set your 20-minute session up with me, and you'll be able to follow up specifically there. So if you guys don't have any more specific questions, again, I will be sending you, and it's going to be from my personal email. If you have a specific question that you want to set up, if you don't want to go through the application, you just want to email me back directly, totally fine. But I want to make sure that you have your answers when it comes to onboarding. So thanks for joining me for this webinar. Watch out for an email from me. It will at least have a link to the webinar so that you can make sure to send it off to some of your colleagues as well. Sign up for your 20-minute session, and I look forward to talking with each of you soon. Have a great rest of your day.